Senator yields for questions.
So Senator, I've listened to your explanation, and I remember our discussions in Judiciary Committee. And do you believe all this talk of a runaway convention? We've heard a lot of people talk about it, both inside this body and out. I've thought about it a lot. But doesn't it bear pointing out that this, and you've said it already, but I want to say it again, the notion that we can just go shred the Constitution is overblown because the ratification process is not suspended, right? We're not suspending the process whereby the states ratify any proposed amendments from an Article 5 convention.
That is correct. Three-quarters.
The ratification process is still in place.
38 have to ratify. That's correct.
So, for example, and I think, and I would share this concern with the senator from Greenville and other folks that, you know, people talk about the Second Amendment might be at risk. If you had to politically be Nostradamus for a moment, do you think you could get 38 states of these United States to shred the Second Amendment?
There's no chance that that would happen.
There's no chance that would happen. I wouldn't vote for it. You wouldn't vote for it. This state wouldn't vote for it. Do you believe, I've thought about this a lot and read a lot of literature from the founders on this issue, and I've heard people almost imply that an Article 5 Convention of States is sort of like a self-destruct mechanism. It's like when you have a plane that crashes enemy lines and you push a button and it kind of destroys itself. I don't think the Madison and the founders had any idea of this being or any intention of this being a self-destruct button, right? Isn't this a self-preservation relief valve? I mean, do you believe, Senator, that the founders are more concerned about a runaway federal government than out-of-control state governments?
Oh, they were more concerned about a runaway federal government. And the federal government has only become much more powerful, really by judicial fiat, than the government that the framers created. There's no question about that, which argues for a Article 5 convention to restrain federal power, because federal power has been increased dramatically.
Senator, I had someone come to my office and tell me, and I found this to be interesting. I'd like your take on it since you chair the subcommittee on Article 5. They said, well, Senator, you have to understand Article 5 is an outdated concept. It's never been tried before. Therefore, it's outdated and we shouldn't follow it. I was a little bit stunned, and I asked the question. I said, well, it's in the original Constitution. So if you say that Article 5 is outdated, aren't you essentially saying that the Constitution is outdated? I mean, I disagree with that. I think the Constitution is timeless wisdom that's still applicable. But Article 5 was in there in the original version. It's not an amendment that was added later, right?
Well, that's correct. And Hamilton in Federalist 85, we may safely rely on the disposition of the state legislatures to erect barriers against the encroachment of the national authority. What I'm telling y'all is the more you read the founders and the framers, the more you understand they put this in here for the benefit of the states to push back against federal overreach and that disrupts the balance of power. I don't want the states to be too powerful either. I think it's important to have this balance. Like the separation of powers balance is important, federalism balance is important. And the framers had the idea that we put this in here for the states to push back if the federal government, in Hamilton's terms, the states could erect barriers against the encroachments of national authority. And so at the end of the day, that's one of the most significant things that struck me. The framers put this in here as a sword for the states to pull out and use if federal power and encroachment of power became too great. And I believe that is true. I think it is a tool for that purpose. And for us to unilaterally disarm and say we will never use it is really taking one of the most powerful tools the framers gave to the states under federalism doctrine, take one of the most powerful tools and unilaterally disarm. I've used the analogy, it's an arrow in our quiver. I'm a bow hunter. When I pull an arrow out my quiver, I want to shoot it at something. I don't want to throw it on the ground. That's unilateral disarmament. And for us to say we will never do this, in the eyes of the framers, I'm totally convinced. They would say you are unilaterally disarming You are discarding one of the most powerful devices we put in the Constitution for you to push back against federal overreach. And that is the mind of the framers. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that if you look at the history. And is there some risk involved? Yes, there's some risk. I think the biggest mitigation of that risk is the 38 state ratification requirement.
Well, and Senator,
I can think of any number or combination of 12 states that would not let something really crazy happen.
I would agree. And to your point, when you mentioned this is the mind of the founders, I heard a joke once, and I thought they said it tongue in cheek, but it's true to our times. They said, what would the founders think if they came back to 21st century America and they looked around and saw how things were going, and someone said, well, they'd start a revolution and start their own country? But they wouldn't have, because they built Article 5 in to avoid having to have another revolution. It's almost a political revolution of sorts built into the Constitution, as you put it, checking power not only between the branches, but between the federal and the states. So the last question I have, because we've had it brought up already today, this idea of, is there a prescription, so to speak, on what we're going to address in Article 5 convention? And it's my understanding that if we adopt this resolution, and I certainly hope we do, we'd be the 19th state to do it. So 18 other states have. Virtually every state that has done this has followed the same template of saying that this convention will be for purposes of proposing amendments dealing with the jurisdiction of the federal government in the areas of term limits, of balanced budget amendments that would reduce or limit the jurisdiction of the federal government. So aren't we just basically using one of the two prescribed ways to propose constitutional amendments anyways, because Congress is never going to vote for term limits, and they're never going to have a balanced budget amendment. We're saying here, this is a tool for us to make Congress consider, or the states consider, amendments Congress would never do on their own, right?
We are, Senator, and if we unilaterally disarm and never do this, the federal government in Article 5 has the ability to amend of course, they let the Supreme Court do it, really. They've let the Supreme Court do it, basically, by the living, breathing Constitution concept. But if we refuse to do it, then we're just letting the federal government be the only one who can play in that sandbox. And for us to say we will never do this, when the framers considered it one of the most important devices we have, and I would be, again, I studied myself from being opposed initially to being supportive, because I saw how significant the framers considered this to rebalance the power between the federal and the state government, and they were very, very committed to balanced political power, not excessive political power, because we are seeing today, when you go home and you turn on the cable news and you see what's happening in Ukraine, you see the consequence of concentrated political power vividly. And the people of Ukraine are living it and dying it today as we speak. The framers they were not all Jewish or Christian, but they did have a Judeo-Christian view of human nature, because you develop that view of human nature, whether it's by theology or experience. You develop the same conclusions, and that is that man is made in God's image, or if you don't even believe in God, man is capable of good. As a Christian, I think, because it's made in God's image, but man's capable of good by observation. You understand that. He's also capable of great evil, because we see that. In a Christian theology, and Jewish theology, man is fallen, sinful, fallen from grace. But what do you do with a creature like that? What kind of government do you form? You form a government, and what kind of culture do you create? What kind of value system do you create? I'd say you create guardrails. You create guardrails in the form of law, in the form of a constitution, in the form of values and institutions that develop over the centuries through the crucible of human experience, like the law of natural selection in the natural realm that always produced the best results, because if you do things wrong in the natural realm, you get eaten by something else. And so you pass on these behaviors and patterns that lead to success in a species. The same thing happens in the human species. but it is as capable of great good. He's also capable of great evil. We're seeing evil today vividly, and we are seeing good today vividly, and they are both, and no one can deny that human nature is capable of both in the extreme. We see it. If you don't believe it, go turn on the news tonight when you go home, and you will see both good heroism, bravery, and tremendous evil. And that is the nature of man. And so you have to create institutions, and you have to create a form of government that restrains the evil and promotes the good. That's why value systems are important. That's why civic organizations are important. They create the guardrails, they promote the good, and they restrain the evil. And that's what's needed. And the framers understood that. That's why they separated power and not concentrated it. And this is part of separating that power. They gave to the federal government the right, the ability to amend the Constitution. They've done it a few times. And they gave to the states the ability to amend the Constitution. And in the framers' mind, that was exactly the way they did everything else. We're going to diffuse political power, give some here, not concentrate it. And the notion that we will never do this is basically just unilaterally disarming.
Well, and Senator, it's like, so essentially what you're saying is what the Federalist Papers said, and that is that if men were governed by angels, there'd be no need, or if men were angels, there'd be no need for government. If men were governed by angels, there'd be no need to govern the government. Since neither is the case, constitutions are implemented among men. So I appreciate your work as a bow hunter to help put this quiver in our pack, so to speak. Thank you, Senator.
Well, that's Federalist 51, Madison, my favorite quote of all. And it's the most provocative of all. And he said that, and so why do I say that the framers had this view of nature, which is tantamount to a Judeo-Christian view of nature? James Madison said it in Federalist 51. If all men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, no restraint on government would be necessary. In creating a government of men, over men, the great difficulty lies in this. First, you must empower the government to restrain the governed, because they're not angels. Secondly, you must compel the government to restrain itself, because the government's run by people who aren't angels. We're seeing that. Aren't we seeing that today in Russia? Aren't we seeing that there hasn't been the restraint on government that's needed? We're seeing that today vividly. For those who think evil doesn't exist, they're getting a little lesson, aren't they? Unfortunately, a big lesson.
I'm here live in Philadelphia at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. When you hear the phrase lives, fortunes, and sacred honor, these are the folks we should think of, those who anonymously gave their lives. Well, today you have a chance to volunteer. You need to volunteer for conventionofstates.com, the movement that's going to save the country. These folks were willing to step up and give everything. We need you to give just a little bit. Go to conventionofstates.com and volunteer today.